In August 2019, the President of the United States publicly proposed purchasing Greenland from Denmark. The offer was declined within 48 hours. The diplomatic fallout lasted 6 days. Within 14 months, the United States committed $12.1 million to reopen a consulate in GIUK that had been closed since 1953. No war had started. No treaty had been signed. No vote had been held. Between 2015 and 2023, the number of non-Arctic states holding observer status in the Arctic Council increased from 12 to 13. China began describing itself as a near-Arctic state in official documents in 2018. Rare earth exploration licenses issued by the Greenlandic government rose 40% between 2017 and 2021. Cargo tonnage transiting the Northern Sea Route increased 300% between 2013 and 2019. Greenland did not change governments. It did not announce new discoveries. The ice had been retreating for decades. What changed was not ownership, governance, or discovery. It was a parameter the old model treated as fixed. For most of the 20th century, Greenland's strategic value was measured in deterrence. Thule Air Base, established in 1951, existed to detect Soviet bomber formations crossing the polar cap. The base did not project power. It absorbed it. The island functioned as a sensor, not a node. This positioning was not political preference. It was geometric consequence. In September 1980, average Arctic sea ice extent measured 7.5 million square kilometers. By 2020, it measured 3.9 million. The reduction was not linear. After 2007, decline accelerated. That year marked the first time the Northwest Passage and the Northern Sea Route were simultaneously navigable without icebreaker escort. The effect was not symbolic. It was logistical. A container vessel traveling from Shanghai to Rotterdam via the Suez Canal covers approximately 19,800 kilometers. The same voyage through the Northern Sea Route covers 14,100. The difference is 41 days of operating time, or roughly $300,000 in fuel per voyage at 2019 bunker prices. The route does not require canal transit fees. It bypasses the Strait of Malacca, the Bab el-Mandeb, and the Suez Canal. 3 choke points where a single disabled vessel can interrupt 20% of global trade. But fuel was not the binding constraint. Time was. Until 2007, Arctic routes were accessible roughly 60 days per year. By 2020, accessibility extended to 130 days. The increase did not occur because access was requested. It occurred because thermodynamic systems do not require permission. The same shift altered resource economics. Greenland's continental shelf contains an estimated 17 billion barrels of recoverable oil and gas, according to U.S. Geological Survey assessments completed in 2008. Rare earth oxide deposits in southern Greenland were cataloged in the 1980s. They were not exploited. Operating in sub-zero temperatures for 8 months per year tripled equipment failure rates. Labor costs were 6 times higher than temperate equivalents. Projects failed, not politically, but arithmetically. These were margin barriers. By 2015, global rare earth prices had increased 7-fold relative to their 2002 baseline. China controlled approximately 85% of global refining capacity. Prices did not rise because demand surged. They rose because alternative suppliers had exited after 2 decades of sustained below-cost production. When competitors disappeared, prices corrected. The price shift did not create Greenland's deposits. It moved them across a viability threshold. Projects losing $40 million annually in 2005 reached break-even by 2014. Break-even became profitable by 2018. Exploration claims filed in 2004 and suspended in 2007 resumed drilling in 2017. No policy changed. The arithmetic did. At the same time, submarine activity intensified in the Greenland-Iceland-UK gap. NATO anti-submarine patrol flight hours over the North Atlantic doubled between 2014 and 2020. Russian Northern Fleet submarine deployments increased by 60%. These were not symbolic movements. They were positional adjustments. The gap measures 300 kilometers at its narrowest point. During the Cold War, Soviet ballistic missile submarines had to transit this corridor to reach North Atlantic firing positions. NATO installed fixed sonar arrays along the seabed. Submarines were detectable. The gap functioned as a filter. Newer submarine classes operate below ambient ocean noise levels. Detection thresholds effective in 1985 failed by 2005. The filter became transparent. When a choke point stops constraining movement, it stops being a choke point. It becomes a corridor. Greenland sits 600 kilometers from the gap's western edge. Aircraft launched from Greenlandic airstrips reach the corridor in 40 minutes. Surface vessels require 6 hours. This distance did not change. What changed was what needed to be monitored. When detection fails, surveillance must become mobile. Mobile surveillance requires launch points. Launch points require fuel, maintenance, and crew rotation. Thule Air Base could support these functions, but operating from Thule added 4 hours of flight time per sortie. Over a year, that difference equaled 600 additional flight hours, or approximately $18 million in operating cost. A southern Greenland base reduced those costs by 70%. The United States did not build one. Denmark controlled approval. Approval was not granted. In 2020, the United States offered to finance upgrades to 4 Greenlandic airports. The proposal was accepted. The airports were civilian infrastructure. They were also compatible with military transport aircraft. Compatibility was not an accident. It was a specification. China's classification of itself as a near-Arctic state carried no legal standing. The law of the sea does not recognize proximity. The statement appeared in a polar policy white paper. It was repeated. It was not challenged. Challenging it would have required asserting that proximity is irrelevant, but proximity is not irrelevant when routes compress. Greenland has 6 deepwater ports. China invested in port infrastructure across Iceland, Norway, and Svalbard after 2012. The investments were commercial. They also formed continuity. In 2016, a Chinese state-owned firm bid to construct 3 Greenlandic airports. The bid was competitive. It was withdrawn in 2018 after Denmark offered alternative financing. The alternative was conditioned. No embargo was declared. No sanction was imposed. The outcome was identical. Greenland's annual government revenue totals approximately $1.4 billion. 60% derives from Danish subsidies. Its population is 57,000. It cannot independently fund large infrastructure. It cannot reject conditions without losing projects. This is not subordination. It is liquidity constraint. When physical constraints shift, liquidity determines who moves first. Each actor operated rationally within those limits. By 2021, Greenland possessed upgraded airports. They were civilian. They were strategically compatible. No announcement was required. The revaluation was not sudden in calendar time. It was sudden only after the system stopped absorbing delay. For decades, ice enforced distance. Distance enforced irrelevance. When distance collapsed, relevance followed. No nation designed the shift. No policy accelerated it. The system recalculated equilibrium. Attention adjusted accordingly. Power does not declare itself. It compounds until adjustment costs exceed resistance.